asked that one surprisingly often, mostly because, you'll be sat down with someone and they'll ask, what are you into? And you'll say, oh, I, do LARP. And then they give you that funny look. And it's a look that I'm sure any LARPers out there will recognize, the look of, what? Well, what did you say? What are you on about? And the response is this, at which point I lean forward and I go, do you know what a historical reenactor is? And most people do. Most people know that a historical reenactor is somebody who goes out, dresses up in period costume of their chosen period of reenactment, and goes out and pretends to live that period, living history. Most people have seen reenactors, or they've seen a TV show in which reenactors have been involved. At which point I answer, so I'm like a reenactor, but I'm a fantasy reenactor, rather than reenacting like the 18th century or, the early Iron Age. I reenact a fantasy setting. I reenact Lord of the Rings. I reenact something completely made up. Hell, I've even reenacted Star Trek. And that's LARP. It's live action roleplay, at which point instantly people ask, oh, is it, like Hemo or Battle of the Nations or stuff like that? And I'm like, well, some of it is. The bits that I like doing certainly are. And yeah, that's what LARP is.
So, in a practical sense, it's live action roleplay where, like a roleplay board game, it's more face to face. You act out what your character would do and say. You have a bit more of a fleshed out in person world. And in a sense of what is LARP to me, it's more of a thing that I'd go do with friends and a way to express myself, a way to be creative. I love the costume work, and I really enjoy being able to have aspects of myself like amplified in a role play setting. So I'm a bit charismatic, but at role play, I can be really charismatic. And it's that balance of being able to be that bit extra that I very much enjoy. And that's what LARP is to me.
Often to non-LARPers, I describe LARP as cross-country pantomime at worst, and at best cross-country theatre, often with drinking involved. It's just grown-ups playing make-believe and having a good time, basically.
I laugh because I want to be someone else for a bit. I love my life. It's a great life, but who doesn't want to be someone else for just a moment, for just a day? I also laugh because I found friends in LARPing. People I basically never meet unless I go LARPing. And that's a very good reason to LARP, according to me.
Why do I LARP? I LARP because it's fun. It's an opportunity to drink myself near to death in a field 4 times a year. It's an opportunity for me to sing and dance with friends and drum and do all sorts of cool stuff that I would not ever think I'd be doing. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I've got no fucking else.
I enjoy LARP because it's the expression of telling a story in a way that we can present ourselves to everyone else in a different format. Our imaginations often are not something that we can physically see, but in LARP you can become the character, you can wear the clothing, you can talk with an accent, you can sing a song, you can write, you can be a hero, you can be a villain. There's so many different ways of expressing your creativity that not everyone normally would be able to. People try and write and they're unable to complete a story, but in LARP you can just get the costumes and go out and have a good weekend with friends being this character. It's an opportunity to invent your identity into the creative world.
Okay. Oh, now there's a good one. So, the biggest challenge, oddly enough, is getting into it, because as you can see, I am in a costume right now. All of this costume was made by hand for not a lot. What you're probably looking at, and for any international viewers, I apologise, I'm pounds rather than dollars. Probably my entire get-up cost me less than £30. I had to work 3 hours of my job to be able to pay for all of this outfit, and actually, no, probably close to 40, because these old reenactment braces were worth 15. So they are half of the outfit that you see before you. The rest was all put together from fabrics, which were sewn. Was then, if you can see some of it, embroidered by me by hand, crudely, but it looks good. It's got some very nice effects on it. But not everyone can get there. Not everyone has the time to make their own costume. So they end up buying online, they end up buying off the rack and off the shelf, and that adds up. One of the biggest challenges of LARP is therefore affording it, is therefore going out and sourcing your costume and just getting yourself up to a level where you can, go. Now, don't get me wrong, there's loads of clubs out. Absolutely bend over backwards because they just want more LARPers and more people to be involved in it. But not every organisation is like that, and you'll find yourself, quite frankly, having to put quite a financial strain on yourself just to put yourself at a point where maybe you can enjoy this weird and wonderful hobby you've heard of. Because I'm sure anyone who's interested in LARP has seen the pictures of people in their glorious plate mail, staring off like Arthurian knights of myth and legend. And what nobody tells you while they're going, yeah, you should totally get into it, it's amazing, is that person is probably wearing a grand worth of steel. And that glorious weapon was created by an artisan, and that big old two-handed is cost 120 quid. No, don't get me wrong, there's always a way, there's always corners to be cut. This is, £5 worth of material you're seeing over here that I'm wearing. This is less than a fiver worth of cheap polycotton that I put together. And then, it looks the part. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge of LARP. Getting into it and getting over the financial part of it. As always, there's ways around it, because there's ways around everything in this world. But yeah, that's probably the biggest one. Next question.
Biggest challenges for me are, even though I am a bit confident, there are times where I'm really, really quite not. I do suffer from anxiety sometimes. So in a setting where I might have to speak publicly and loudly, I can very much struggle. So that can be hard. I sometimes struggle to, the best way to put on a brave face when I'm a bit nervous and I need to do a ritual, and oh God, I've got to shout in front of all these people, and eventually getting past it, I always feel really good, but it is a bit of a leap and a bound. Another challenge I face is sometimes I get kind of achy wrists and joints and have physical problems, and that can make sometimes the fighting quite difficult. But luckily, everyone's really patient with me, and there's lots of different things you can do. It's not all about fighting, and it's not all about social. You can do lots of different things, so it's quite forgiving.
Biggest challenge in LARP. I think for me, it's finding what you want. I'm on the current game I'm playing, and I only play one game at the moment. It took me 3 characters to work out what I wanted from this game. I started coming because of the battles, but then that'll only take you so far. And I wasn't sure really what I wanted, what I would find satisfying, what I would find fulfilling. My first character, I think, has created far more game in their death than they ever did in life. My second one, he was just super stab happy, and he was too violent for this world. And then it was only my third character where I realized this is what I want to do. I want to create game for other people. I want to be that great NPC character, like the great companion character. from other people's stories, and finding that took me nearly 3 years. I had a great time the rest of the time leading up to that point, but once I found that bit, it's like that was the click moment. So identifying what it was I wanted to get out of the game was for me the hardest part of it.
So I'm probably one of the worst people for having moments I don't enjoy in LARP. And I probably come back from every event going, I don't know why I do it. I don't know why I go. Like this happened that I didn't enjoy, that happened, and it's awful. And yet every event I still go back. And I think a lot of that stems from the fact that what seems like a big problem at the time isn't further down the road. So I have a really bad habit of getting very overwhelmed with what's happening in the game. And rather than just taking a step back and giving myself a moment, I will completely leg it. So I will just go hide in my tent until someone comes finds me, or until I feel better enough to go outside and face people. So sometimes, despite it being a very social game, you almost need a bit of a breather, especially for like fest LARPs where you've got a lot of people over a longer period of time. So I find that sometimes I just need to go for a wander. Typically I go do it at night, so no one can even see who you are. You just go out, no one recognizes you, and you can just be left alone while you go enjoy the actual atmosphere rather than just having to interact with everyone. And yeah, sometimes knowing that there's a certain place you can go where people won't bother you, that's what I find most useful when I'm feeling overwhelmed and like I don't want to interact with anyone.
Moments I didn't enjoy. So, as you may have guessed from that. So, ironically, the first time I went to a festival with my friends, the first 4 or 5 hours I absolutely hated. Could not stand it. Literally sat in my tent at 10:30 at night, thinking to myself, this is pretty awful. All of my friends have run off to do some weird stuff that they've not told me about, which they are 100% invested in. Nobody really wants to talk to me because they are 100% invested in what they're doing. And I'm sat around here at a loose end. And at that point, you're sat there going, well, the fuck, this is nothing like D&D. This is nothing like the RPGs I've played up to this point on my computer. There's no handy NPC handing me a quest. This is pretty bullshit. And this was completely different from, the local system where I've done a lot of crewing where you knew what the plot is, you knew where the NPCs were, and everything was sort of handed to the 5 or 6 players by the 5 or 6 crew who swap a week after. So to organise it. So coming to a place where there were thousands of player characters and only a handful of crew who were really just there to, throw more fuel on the fire while everyone argued and fought each other and made up their own plot. It was a bit of a culture shock. But luckily, I ended up sitting in a tent with a bunch of very nice people who sort of half ignored me. And then a member of their group came in possessed by a demon. Stabbed her completely, her in-character father, and ran off into the night. At which point they say, you big warrior, fucking after her before her father bleeds out. And off I went into the night. An hour and a half later, I'm back, covered in mud, having wrestled with a young priest and an old priest, having had to find the young priest and the old priest to exercise, having been rolled around in the mud with the young priest after he got possessed, only to have the demon jump into someone else who got possessed. I'm covered in fake blood. I've made 4 friends for life. My costume looks 85% more authentic because it's now fucking filthy. Oh, sorry, I swore there. Because it's filthy. Because it's absolutely filthy. And yeah, suddenly I was like, do you know what? This might not be so bad. That's the anecdote I'm happy.
Definitely. I think sometimes, especially if you're going to be in a field with so many people, you might have people there that you don't really want to hang out with and don't really want around. So, one of the ways I got around it is by surrounding myself with people that I really, really like and enjoy and love the company of. I'd try my best to kind of because often the field is big enough, you can avoid the problems and just kind of go do something else, go try something else, go be somewhere else. That can really help me get out of it. Often it's just my friends and them talking to me and being like, no, it's going to be okay. Let's just go do this. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. You'll have a great time. And that can really help me get around it. And other ways that I didn't really enjoy are towards the end of some characters that I was just feeling were a bit stagnant, and I was worried about going to the next event and just being bored. I'd be like, well, no, let's think about what we can do. And I'd have a look on either websites or the internet and see different kinds of attitudes I could take. Like, I'm a healer now, but what if I were to join a guild of healers and then meet other people and spice it up a little bit? Maybe if there isn't a guild, I can make one and stuff like that. There's a lot you can figure out within yourself to try and build and improve. I think that helps.
I would like to say that made me less shy, but that's probably not true. It has helped my English, though just a bit. I'm still shit at it. It it hasn't done too much for me yet because I haven't done it too much, but I feel like it's improving my way to socialize. It makes me not want to shy away when there's large groups of people. Instead, I can actually go in there and embrace whatever the fuck they're doing. I hope you allow swearing in this because I'm doing it a lot. And well, just talking to people in general, because you need to talk to people when you're LARPing. Otherwise, you're not really doing it. I guess people can do it without talking to people, but just for me, it's a lot about the social interactions, and that means talking to people.
LARP helped me deal with grief. I lost someone really close to me last year, and I've recently taken over a position as a storyteller in a LARP system, and I threw myself into it. I gave all of my heart into it, making sure there was plot, interacting with people, dealing with downtimes, um, making sure they had a game to run on a 2-week basis, and it helped me not focus on pain that I was feeling at the time, but how to make sure that people were happy. Because at the end of the day, that's what I've always tried to do, is always try to make people happy as a storyteller. LARPing is, a great thing about you can do these great amazing things, but it's the people behind the screen that put a lot of time and their heart and their soul into running games for you. They genuinely are like the heroes for LARP. And getting the opportunity to be that individual to help these people to make sure these games run with my team, of course, is something I will cherish for years, forever. It's part of me now.
I think LARP's helped me massively in my public speaking and being able to talk to other people with authority and sound like I know what I'm talking about, I guess. Sometimes I don't feel like I know what I'm talking about, but I get by. And also getting back into singing, because singing and storytelling around the fire can be quite a big part of it. So you're singing and telling stories, and it's that confidence to get up there and just do it. It doesn't matter if you necessarily get it wrong. You can't get it wrong. You're just doing you. So that's good.
How would I describe LARP combat? I think dramatic is probably the best way I could use. In LARP combat, you're encouraged to be dramatic and be heroic, not necessarily efficient. Not, people are there for the drama. They're there for the excitement and the storytelling and the make believe aspect. And the way we fight in LARP is not an accurate representation, or not 100% accurate representation of real world battlefield tactics. It's to make a cool experience. But I tell you, there's moments where you're in the shield wall, everyone comes in, the order comes down, you step to contact and you break the opposing line, or when you're skirmishing, and it's amazing because when you're there and when you're in the moment, you are completely immersed in it, and it is so cool and it's so fun. But yeah, dramatic is probably the best way I could think of describing it. Realistic, meh. Effective, no, probably not. But really cool, really cool.
That depends entirely on what system you're playing. It really does, because obviously there are some systems in which combat isn't the be all and end all, that it's not the main solution to conflict, but it's not the main solution to conflict, and that it's entirely on the back burner. There are some systems where it's all about the conflict, and you'll find that there's a definite difference between high hit systems and low hit systems. So in a high hit system, your character stats and abilities allow the monsters to hit you more often, so that you can survive, and it'll make up for the fact that maybe you've spent the last 20 odd years eating nothing but Cheetos and have only left your couch to make use of the facilities and build another website. And those systems are fun, certainly. They're not for me, but they're fun. And then there's low hit systems where if that guy hits you twice, I'm sorry, mate, but you're bleeding out on the floor. But those are my favourite systems. I absolutely love them because in that, the risk is real. The adrenaline is absolutely there. And those are the most visceral experiences. Being attacked by a horde of skeletons who I know have to hit me 18 times, have to hit me with 4 quads, and anything under a triple, that's when somebody yells triple, which means they've done you 3 points of damage, but I could ignore because of my magic. Sure, it made me feel like a god, but I was a bit bored after, the second. But LARP combat. So again, back to reenactment. It's a lot like that. It's like it's like movie fighting, but it's not just for the audience and everyone watching it. It's also for you. But obviously, it's safe. It's safe. It's not slamming something. It's not slamming bodily into someone and jamming your elbow into their throat. It's about safely striking someone in the most awesome and cinematic way possible, so that you can sit there afterwards and go, and yes, I swung a mighty blow, and my opponent fell back, blood splattering everywhere, rather than, oh crap, I think I might have hurt someone, or, and then I tapped him and did 1 point of damage. It was pretty fucking amazing. None of that. That's how I describe LARP combat to people. A glorious, high octane endeavor that's like nothing else in this world.
LARP combat is essentially theatrical combat. With someone you can go hammer and tong at it a little bit and get a little bit rowdy, but you are essentially doing fake combat and making it look as real as possible, but you're using a foam sword. And you should remember that you're using a foam sword or whatever weapon of choice you have.
LARP combat can vary between systems, but in general, I find it's usually 2 different parties that are gonna fight. You grab your weapons and you're able to enact a battle safely. Well, usually quite safely. It's I think probably the safest way you can enact a fight. And you can you can use all different kinds of methods as well. There's archery you can do in fights. There are all different kinds of weapons, spears, pikes, pole arms, short swords, long swords, axes. Axes are my favorite. You can even use hammers. And being able to fight in a way that you find comfortable is pretty great. But yeah, LARP combat's just a bit of a romp in a field with some squeaky weapons with your friends, really.
So for this one, I need to show you some of my toys. And, well, let's answer the question first. First things first, if we're talking about the American definition of a boffer weapon, these aren't boffer weapons because I'm not an American. We have completely different standards here in the United Kingdom. But is it a stick covered in rubber and latex and at the most desperate times gaffer tape with which I whack someone in combat? Of course it's a bloody boffer, absolutely. But let me show you my toys. So this is one of my. Oh, hold on. Am I still there audio-wise? Yep. Okay. Excellent. Sorry, things getting tied up in cables. This is a pretty little scimitar. It's 42 inches long. It's got a lovely handle, lovely curved blade, made by the artisan Darren Stocker. Stocker from Irregular Props. Go check out his website and stuff. The man's a genius. And this is probably one of my favourite. I love it because it's quick and it chops beautifully. Most of my fighting, however, is done with da 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 da. Oh, well, that's how long this damn thing is. This is a 7-foot halberd with a stab-safe tip on the top, meaning that I can stab people with it. I can stab, I can chop, I can smash, I can block, and obviously you can't see how tall I am, but I'm 6 foot 6 inches. That's 1.98 m to those in Europe. And with this, my range becomes close to 3 meters, in which I can poke you and smack you and knock you around before you even get near me. And I love these things. I've loved pole arms, and when I used to reenact, quite frankly, being an assault spearman was just the way I went. So when I came into LARP, these things followed me in. This is a medlock, by the way, if you're interested. Again, another glorious artisan. I love Darren Stocker's stuff more, but I've broken 2 of his halberds, so this is my backup while the other one's in the shop. And yeah, that's my favourite weapon, and I suppose it is a boffer. Oh.
So currently, my character can only unfortunately use a sword. Well, she chooses to use a sword. I've tried. The swords I have, they're a matching pair. And I bought them with my first character, who was an ambi character, so 2 swords. And I absolutely love them to bits. They're tiny because they're really light and quick, and no one else can use them because they're pointlessly light. And I've got them because I'm particularly weak. And I'm also quite short, so big swords I find actually quite cumbersome. I wasn't very good with them. And unfortunately, as much as I love using them as ambi, I don't get to do it with this character unless I'm monstering, which is playing the enemy, basically. So I actually really enjoy playing ambi. I find it much more technical, and I find it less cumbersome than using a sword and border, sword and shield. But again, I quite like using a shield. But if I could have any weapon, it would probably be axes, which I imagine is quite a popular one, people have said, because axes just feel cool and they just look cool. So you can have a sword that looks pretty generic, but most axes, even a generic axe, looks pretty awesome up close and from a distance. And particularly in a lot of UK LARPs and European LARPs. So in American LARPs, you get these boffers, which are essentially like pool noodles over a core, and then duct taped around to make it look vaguely sword-like. And okay, they aren't used everywhere, but that's the general principle in a lot of American systems. In a lot of UK and European systems, we have things that look more real. So they'll often be foam carved and then latexed over. So they are still safe for hitting people, but they look more like the actual things you're aiming for. So that's why, particularly in European LARPers, you'll find that they'll go, "Oh, we don't want a boffer. We like our realistic looking weapons," because frankly, it makes LARP look 10 times cooler when it looks like you're actually smashing someone's head in with a mace rather than just a pool noodle.
My LARP weapon of choice has been a bow. I've had this bow, well, not that bow, but I've been using the bow since my first Empire. I've actually not died yet either, so I'm still on the same character. I use the bow pretty much every opportunity I get, and when I don't do that, I use my one-handed sword, and I've got a ceremonial dagger as well, which I've also brought into combat. It's not tasted anything yet, but that is pretty much it. Yeah, bow and a one-handed. Why isn't it a boffer? Because what we have in the UK, at least, is a sense of style and refinement, and you can't get that by fucking wrapping some fucking pool noodle around a tent peg. It's just not going to fucking work. You got to make it look nice. It's all good and well hitting it and gaining the point, but if someone looks at you and goes, "What the fuck is that? I ain't taking a hit from that fucking thing," then you've got to really kind of sit down afterwards and rethink some of your life choices in terms of what you do with your weapons and such.
The best thing I have ever done at LARP is singing and writing songs. I had not written a single song in over 10 years. Does more maths. In about 17 years, and LARP encouraged me to start writing and performing again. And the best thing I've ever had is people coming up to me afterwards saying that not just that they like the songs, not just that it affected their characters, but that it affected them as players as well. And there is no better compliment I could have had. I've led skirmishes, I've led battles. Nothing quite competes with that feeling that you've had an emotional impact on someone else, hands down.
The best thing I've ever done in LARP was create a character that at the very beginning of the system's beginning, creating a backstory that created villains that are still effective and evolved and relevant to the plot 10 years later. I played in a LARP system where I played an undead husband to my fiancée Car's character Ruby Blackthorn, who played a witch. We kind of went with the idea that we played Romeo and Juliet, but she come from a family of witches. I came from a family of witch hunters. My family killed hers, and she basically got saved by my character, and I looked after her, and we got married, and my family found out and tried to murder her. In letting her escape, I got killed. She brings me back from the dead, and I become this undead husband, weird necrophiliac thing character. And the Blackthorns in this system are only just been dealt with, and it's been nearly 10 years. And there's still there are still people in the system that when they go Blackthorns, they go, "Oh, those guys," and that fills me with glee.
The best thing I've done at LARP is actually a pretty minor thing in the grand scheme of things. I think it was the last event I went to at Empire. My character's relatively new, so she's actually not got that many friends in the game yet. And she started striking up a friendship with a character called Rose, or Rochar, who my hall has known for a long time, but my character hasn't. And we'd been getting along really well. We'd gone out for to drink tea at our favorite tea house and stuff like that. And she actually confided in me that as a character, she felt like she no longer wanted to come to Anvil. So basically, the player was thinking about rolling a new character, and Roshar had been around a long time, and she was a very important member of her hall. And so she basically was saying that she thinks this is what she wants to do, but she wasn't sure. And she wanted some guidance. And she explicitly mentioned one of the characters in game called the Shaman, who is kind of known in our nation for being particularly good at providing guidance and wisdom. But the Shaman's also quite he's quite an experience. So he has this big leather hooded cloak, and he's a Naga, so he's got snake skin, and he's an amazing character, and he absolutely, I mean, his roleplay blows people's minds. But because he's such an intense role player, people like me and Roshar actually tend to avoid him, because as much as we all want to interact with him, we just don't know how to do it in a way, because it's just he's so he feels so real that it's like, how do you interact with a person of that caliber? And so we kind of parted ways, and I've been thinking about it. And I actually saw Shaman later that day, and without even thinking, I just went over to him and said, "Oh, Shaman, Roshar's looking for you. She's got something really important to discuss." And so by doing that, I kind of forced her into making that interaction, which was kind of an integral part of her character. She really wanted to interact with Shaman, but she didn't know how to do it, basically. And I just went along and said, "This has got to happen. You need to talk to him. You need to make this decision." And so afterwards, she was really thankful when I said to her, I said, "I hope it didn't bother you, but I sent Shaman your way earlier." She's like, "No, it was absolutely amazing." And so for me, knowing that I helped make that interaction happen, that's probably the best thing that I've done in LARP.
The best thing I have ever done at LARP, in terms of a character's perspective, when we had a battle with a load of war rhinos, I managed to ping one of the riders in the head from about 60 feet away, and it was beautiful. In terms of myself for LARPing, almost dying was fucking phenomenal. It was brilliant. Like, it really brings into perspective your choices that you've made and stuff. Like when you just go, you look around, you see like a line going away, and you realize you've got like 2.5 cleaved legs or whatever, and you just think, I have fucked up massively. Oh, if only I can go back and change this. Coming back from that really reshuffles it, and it was a huge kick for my character instead of just. It's awesome. I could not recommend Near Death enough.
Fucking do it. It's great fun. If you want to do it, then try it. Maybe you don't like it, but what the hell? You might love it, and it's worth it. Just to try something new to see if you like it. It's always a good idea. If you don't like it, then too bad. You wasted a day, maybe 2, maybe 3 of your life. But if you love it, you found something that you'll do for the rest of your life. So just do it.
Firstly, what I'd say was do it. Try it. If you are interested, give it a go. Whatever genre you choose, be that fantasy, be that modern day, be that horror, there is so much for you to choose from. I would probably recommend starting in a smaller system if you're nervous, because it's getting with a small group of people and trying a thing. Or if you are more confident, a Fest LARP is probably a good idea to start, simply because you have the option of engaging with whatever plot comes your way, or just wandering about and looking at it from a distance. So it's however you feel best in entering the whole world.
I think it's always worth a try, like anything in life. Even if you're nervous, even if you're anxious, if you've got good friends that can go with you and join you, or ones that are already going, it's always worth a try. At least you can say you've done it once it's being done. And if you don't enjoy it, you don't have to come back. No one will ever force you to do anything you're not comfortable with. So, like the worst you're gonna get out of it is you went camping for a weekend. The best you're gonna come out of it is now you're a LARPer and you've got new friends, a new hobby, and another thing to put all your money into each month, every payday.
Trying LARP can be a very intimidating thing to do. So when I remember when I first did it, that I was adamant I was doing it with my friend, and we were going to go together, and we were going to stick it out together, and that was it. And at the time, I even went to the lengths of finding a group of people who were all starting at the same time as us, and I made us a little newbie group so that we all knew each other when we turned up, even though we were all in different nations. And it basically meant that when the time came, if we were uncomfortable, if we weren't enjoying it, we had people to fall back on, and that we could kind of rely on boosting each other if we needed it. So I think I'm sure everyone has said absolutely go for it. There are a lot of things about LARP that can be off-putting, but they're all things that can be dealt with. So it's not a cheap hobby, but you can do it cheaply. You know, there will be people there who have kit that costs 2-3 grand. And that's just not achievable when you go in at the start because it's a new hobby. You don't want to spend that amount of money. And you can do it by going to charity shops and just getting some t-shirts that you can rip up and perhaps teaching yourself how to sew a little bit. And you'll be able to make a lot of the kit that's actually useful there, especially depending on some LARPs will just require normal clothing. And whereas others might be sci-fi or historical or whatever. So a lot of it's about finding a LARP that fits with what you want to do. It's about finding potentially or looking out for LARPs that are potentially a bit further away than you may want to go. But if you can get people to help you get there, then they're perfectly reasonable to get to as well. Another big thing is not letting yourself talk yourself out of it. So, like I said, I will often go hide in a tent for 4 hours, which is just crazy when you think about it, because I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm just letting my brain get in the way of it. So yeah, you're going to be new. You're going to find things that you don't gel with, that you struggle with, because everyone did when they started. So some of it's about just letting people know, just saying, look, I know that we're in character, but I don't quite know what's going on, or I'm uncomfortable with this. Can we tone it down? You know, not just shutting down and just saying, well, that's it. I don't like LARP at all because I haven't enjoyed this one thing. It's about giving yourself the time to enjoy it and giving yourself the chance to give it a go properly. But yeah, overall, give it a go. If you don't like it, you don't like it. A lot of LARPs are relatively cheap. They're not, going to be massively strict. They're not going to be unhappy with you if you don't enjoy it. It's kind of a bit of a niche hobby, although it's becoming a bit less niche. So, just give it a fair go. Don't let people talk you out of it because they think it's a bit weird. And just, don't stress if it's not your cup of tea straight away, or if it's not your cup of tea at all. You don't have to enjoy it once you're there. But just don't overthink it.
Do it. Just do it. Don't care how you do it. Just get it done, get it sorted, plan it, figure it out. Just, how you're going to get there, what you're going to do when you get there. Don't worry too much about the kits for the most part. The players who are already in there have far too many other characters or some spare kit that they can kind of underarm toss your way. You'll get there. If you spend all of your time going, oh yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah, that's not actually going to do you any fucking favors. You need to get your ass in gear and get out there. Granted, we can't do that currently, but I'm sure we will sometime in the future. And just get stuck in, get into the mindset, and try not to worry. You're not an embarrassment. No one's an embarrassment. We're all here to be collectively embarrassed, so much that it's spread out, so no one's actually embarrassed at all. If they are, it's only a little. Don't fucking worry about it.
If you're thinking of trying LARP and you're unsure, do it. Dive in. You don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds of quids on kit. You can dip your toes in, but just do it with confidence and to a degree that you're comfortable with. I had no real idea what I was getting in for when I started this hobby. I certainly didn't end up doing the things I thought I would be doing, and it's taken me on interesting adventures that I never would have anticipated, and I made friends that I never thought I'd know either. Just do it, try it out, look at the photos, read up on the lore, speak to the people, and then just give it a shot. And assume that the character you turn up with, that you anticipate playing, is not the character that you will leave with.
Some of it is just like that. I know. It's a little cringy, isn't it? But it's really good fun. And quite frankly, I know that movies like Role Models we're taking the mickey out of it the same way that stuff like Big Bang Theory, and I don't need to get into this, sort of takes the mickey out of the nerd community. Because after all, everyone knows it's funny when they say something profound because the laughter track's there. And movies like Mole Moles didn't do us a lot of favours. It was because they sort of went for, if what I do in LARP, where I sit in my canvas tent, which I've spent quite a bit of money on, neon, and I'm a total gatekeeping elitist, which I'm sure some of you will be screaming in the comments, and get involved in my high costume standard game, which I call up there. Role Models went for something that's a bit more down here. If don't get me wrong, there's stuff way below camera angle, but Role Models was over here, and there's nothing wrong with it because everyone in the movie Role Models was clearly having fun. They'd clearly all put effort into their kits. They clearly invested in this game, and even though the movie was trying to make it look a bit cringy and silly, it's what it is. LARP always does look a little bit cringy and silly to people looking at it from the outside, because when you're on the outside, you're not invested. When you're on the outside and looking in at LARP, you're looking at two people having an argument, and one of them is getting really spoilers, and you're sat there going, who gives a toss about elves? I don't understand about elves. Why are these two people having such a heated discussion about elves? Not knowing the background as to why they're having a discussion about elves. But this discussion they're having about elves is dealing with an effect that will change the entire world, and that's why this discussion needs to be had. But these two people are on opposite camps, and that this intense discussion is the difference between their factions going to war. But someone looking from the outside in doesn't get that. You only get that if you're inside it. You only understand that if you understand the context and you're having that conversation, or you know why that conversation is being had. So, yeah, Role Models doesn't paint a perfect picture, but if you really want to see a movie that paints a very strange view of LARP, watch The Wild Hunt, which is a perfect example of gatekeeping elitist LARPers taking a bit too seriously. Effectively, someone's girlfriend goes off to a LARP for a weekend to decompress and get away after she breaks up with him, and John Everyman wanders in and completely ruins everything by not taking his hits, not bothering to wear a costume, and basically breaking into a closed system, and things get a bit real. That is a much better LARP movie. It shows more or less the height of what LARP can be, rather than the mid-ground of what LARP can be, which is what role models shows. And if anyone, tells you that you're a Satanist, weird because you're into LARP, they probably also believe D&D was made by the devil, so avoid those people.
In a way, I think LARP is a little bit like that, because you see the energy that people have there, and they're clearly enjoying themselves, even though it doesn't look the part and doesn't look how it actually looks in real life situations of LARP. People are a lot more, the costumes are a bit different and the attitude's a bit different. It's a bit less snooty. But there are still people that are there thinking it's going to be great fun, going to have a good fight. I'm going to be able to see my friends, and you can come from far and wide. If you're in America, across the state, if you're in the UK, across the big bean, and it's a good bit of fun. And I think as long as that's represented in the media, I'm always going to be fine with whatever really goes out, as long as they're not representing it as that we're a bunch of people that are going to be sat around telling people how they should have fun and that they're not having fun correctly, or that we're boring and dull and don't have any imagination and don't have any thoughts or aren't just nice people. Then obviously it's a bit of a problem. Then it's not ideal representations in the media, but I think it's still portrayed better than it has been. Of course, with things like Stranger Things representing Dungeons and Dragons in quite a new light, that brought on a massive spurge of new players and new people interested, including young people, which was fantastic. And I think if we can get more things like that, it will help a lot. Just in more kind, considerate, small, detailed ways, as opposed to the role model. Take your hits. Why aren't you taking your hits? Brr, I'm a nerd. I think that'll be a bit of an improvement.
The problem with LARP is it does not translate well to film. And for a lot of people, that's what they've experienced. They've seen it, either videos of actual LARPs or films like fictional representations of LARP. I've never seen one that I think is an accurate representation of it, because it's like D&D. If you watch a bunch of people sitting around playing D, that is nothing like the experience of actually playing D&D. When you're there, your brain fills in the gaps that are lacking out in the world. It gets a hard time, and I think partly because the same reason that D&D used to get a hard time is people look at it and they think it looks absurd. And to a degree it is. It is an absurd hobby. But the thing is, all of the people who are playing that game, they know. They are fully aware of the absurdities of what they're doing, but they're embracing it. And that is a key thing that never comes across. The fun factor, that is never really represented. Even when it looks like people are being hyper serious and swearing great heroic oaths, nothing quite translates the experience of being there in the moment, your brain filling in the blanks, and for those little smaller intimate moments that will never be shown on film either, because they're quiet, but they're the ones that'll get you and stay with you.
See, this is tough because I actually kind of liked role models. Okay, so whenever someone talks to me about it, they just say, "Oh, like role models," and you have to go, "No, it really, really wasn't. You need to be there. It's like Vietnam, right? You don't know, man. You weren't there. Like that's pretty much it. Oh, you think you know LARP? You have to respond with, come here and try it, and let's see how much you really know. There's nobody like dressed in terrible centaur costumes. Nobody. That's the Americanized, stylized version of it. As I said, in England we have style and refinement, and god damn it if we don't adhere to that shit.
18 rings, 6 coins to my name, but with 18 rings then I can change the game. Flip them over, turn them around. Oh shit, look, I turned them into a crown. Make it dance, make it work for you. Coin is for the spending, if you scatter it then you'll reap the profits of the seeds you've sown. What do you know, look, I turned it into a throne. We do what we do to keep the water flowing. The more you give, the more it keeps growing. I don't want your gifts, I don't want your charity. I just want to see some other love and prosperity. The wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning round. If the water won't flow, then the crops don't grow, so the wheel keeps turning round. The wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning round. If the water won't flow, then the crops don't grow, so the wheel keeps turning round. I make my living by the sweat of my brow, the strength of my voice and my lyrical know-how. I work hard, I spend freely. I'm not rich, but damn, am I dearly placed to think of virtue and preach it to the masses. The fruits of my labor I use to fill glasses. Life is for the living is the message I'm selling. The scent of success is the aroma you're smelling. The wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning round. If the water won't flow, then the crops don't grow, so the wheel keeps turning round. The wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning round. If the water won't flow, then the crops don't grow, so the wheel keeps turning round. Hold fast, 'cause it might sound funny, but the truth is wealth's not just about money. It's the push and the pull and the give and the take. It's the things that we share and the joy that we make. Give me your attention, I'll give you my time. Lend me your ears and I'll fill them with rhymes. I'll give you words to make your soul burn and take your breath away in return. The wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning round. If the water won't flow, then the crops don't grow, so the wheel keeps turning round. The wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning, the wheel keeps turning round. If the water won't flow, then the crops don't grow, so the wheel keeps turning round.